Hi, my name is Kerry Critchlow from RCR Recording Studios, and today we are going to be learning how to write/produce a song or music using loops, loops and sample audio. Now, this tends to be a very simple way of going about writing your music because a lot of the hard and heavy lifting has already kind of been done for you in a very real sense. You're just kind of picking the pieces you want to add to your song, and so it can be a little time intensive from that standpoint of going through the different loops and samples and seeing what works and what doesn't. But you kind of run into that same issue if you're working with synths, if you're not designing your own sounds from scratch and stuff like that. But it's a very easy way to write music, and so we're gonna get into an example. I guess the key for today is B. B major. Now, I have no idea if our song today is actually going to be in B. We might be able to use some tricks to transpose it into B, but I'm going to kind of go where the breadcrumbs lead me in this case, and you'll see in a minute why that is the case. But for those of you curious about just, seeing what keys are out there and how they kind of all come together, this is a key of B, and these are the chords in the key of B, and these are all the notes that you can use in the key of B. And any of these notes should work over any of these chords. Any of these chords should work with each other relatively well. So if you want to write a song in the key of B, this is kind of a place to start with that. But like I said, we may not be actually using the key of B today. We're going to follow the breadcrumb trail. So first, I guess we should get into the concept of what a loop is. And that essentially, a loop is just a repeating musical phrase. In today's modern recording, producing world or whatever, a lot of these repeating musical phrases are kind of pre-made for you, and a lot you can make your own. And if you've been following along with this series, that's kind of what we've been doing, is making our own loops and stuff, and then just having them repeat a few times. And you can implement some changes, and you have a little bit more freedom when you're doing it kind of on your own from scratch, using MIDI and whatnot. But when you're using samples, you can tweak them a little bit too, and we can go into some of that as well. But loops are basically pre-made audio tracks. And where you can find loops is if you do a Google search or an internet search for, musical loops or audio samples, you're going to find thousands and thousands of sites, both free and paid, that will allow you to use their loops, their audio loops and audio samples in your own production. So I would encourage you, if you find this process a little bit easier maybe than what we've been working on, that you kind of look into that, do your own research, find out what sites are going to be best for you, depending on your budget and, your aesthetic choices and tastes when it comes to music. We are going to be looking at a few different, these are just a few of the loop libraries I have on hand right now, and we'll be looking through some of them, and you can kind of see that they are come in a wide variety of genres and styles and stuff. We have hip hop, Malian house or Malin house or whatever that is. We have EDM, we have trap, techno, hip hop, late night show band. There's punk pop. There's an endless variety of libraries out there, and audio, for both loops and audio samples. So let's, for instance, just take a look at this pop punk. And when we click in this library, it brings us up some choices here, and we can look through, and it says pop punk acoustic guitar in the key of G, and they're recommending that it is at 124 BPM. And then the next one here is pop punk acoustic guitar in the key of F, and they're recommending this one at 170 BPM. And then you can kind of look through, and they have guitars, they have bass, chug guitar, they have crashes, crash patterns, drums full, and they're recommending this at 161 BPM or 116 BPM. You have one shots and loops. So like one shot would just be one snare hit, and that would be kind of more like an audio sample, or a kick one shot that also is kind of more of an audio sample. But just for fun, what we'll do here is we'll pick out one of these loops. So for instance, this Punk Pop Drums Full 161 BPM. So we'll come up into our tempo, and you don't have to use these BPMs, but they're going to sound best at these BPMs, or you'll have to, like, this is what they are. And if you want to change the BPM, you can to a degree, although the further away you get from the intended BPM, the more wonky it could potentially sound. But we'll just go ahead and change our BPM to 161 to match these drums, and then we will bring this in. And now we have a loop. So we can minimize this for a second. And I don't know why. I guess this just kind of ends short. But if we were to play this loop here, this is what it's going to sound like. And probably want to turn this down just a hair, just in case it's a little loud. Okay, and so that's what that Pop Punk Drums Full is. It's just this repeating drum loop, and then it has a little fill at the end here. And if we were to turn on our metronome, ideally this should match the BPM here. So let's see what happens. Oh, we're in 3/4 from last week. That would certainly make a difference here. Okay, so yeah, now that lines up a lot better, now that we're actually in the correct time signature. Another thing to pay attention to. Excuse me. Okay, so now, if we were to play these drums, this should line up a lot better. Okay, and so, yeah, that seems to match up pretty well. And then we can add other instrumentation on top of this. So we can maybe find a bass loop that's at a similar BPM. Like for instance, this right here, Pop Punk Bass at 161 BPM. So we can take this, drag it into our DAW here, and lo and behold, we have a bass line that's going to go along with our drum part here. And if we play them both together, okay, and so a nice simple little bass line, and they seem to be, go pretty good together. And this is probably because whoever created this sample pack or this loop pack or whatever recorded these to go with each other, like literally. You can kind of see for instance, that we have this drums at 161, this bass at 161. We have a drums at 167 and a bass at 167. And this bass happens to be in the key of B, so that's actually matching up, ironically, with what we had chosen as our key. But there are other keys that you can look at that this is in as well. So we have B minor, we have C sharp, we have C, D, F, G, C, all sorts of different options here when it comes to the keys. But you're kind of locked into those keys unless you want to do something like a pitch shifter. And a pitch shifter, what am I looking for? Pitch here will allow us to change the key. So if we look at our semitones here, if we want to drop it by a half step, so now instead of being in the key of B, now this bass is in the key of B flat. And if we play it, Or we can put it into the key of A by dropping it 2 semitones. So you can play around with this a little bit. The further away you get from the original key with the pitch shifting, the more wonky it might start to sound. So like if we went to, say, 8 semitones. Starts sounding a little wonky, right? And same thing would be true if we, rose it up, maybe 8 semitones or whatever. Okay, so while you can use sound like pitch shifters in order to change the key that your instrument is in, you just want to be careful not to get too far away from the original key or original tempo. So for another example, let's go ahead and we'll keep these, but we're going to mute that up, and we're going to go ahead and look for a different tempo here. Maybe this 116 drums. And because our DAW is set at 161, these drums are going to be not lined up quite perfectly with what it is we're doing, and the same thing is going to be true if we were to come in here and find this 116 bass in the key of C. So if we were to play this, they line up with each other because they were kind of designed in this particular instance to be played with each other. But if we were to put on our metronome again, you'll find that it's not quite together. Yeah, it just does not sound like it was designed to go with this tempo, right? But if we play it just, without the metronome on, it should be fine. But there are things we can do to change the tempo of these drums as well. Okay, so that's what it sounds like on its own. But if we wanted to put it into the 161, what we'd really be wanting to do is to stretch these. Well, I say stretch, but we're condensing them so that they are 72% as long, roughly. And they fit into this nice 8-bar sequence here in the 161 tempo. And if we were to play this, it's going to sound a lot faster. Now, different DAWs are going to have you do this stretching component in different ways. If you're interested, I'd check out your help features, or check out a tutorial on your specific DAW that you're using in order to learn this functionality. But every DAW should have this functionality somewhere in it. But you can even take this a step further and shrink it more. But like I said, the more change you make to this kind of stuff, the more wonky it could sound. All right, so that, sounds a little weird. We can even double it. So if we were to really stretch this out to, say, 16 bars. And if we were actually, I just want to check something here because I think we're one short. Yeah, we are one short. Okay, so this would be, again, this would actually fit in a 161 tempo, but it's going to sound way slower than the 161. Okay. And so you can see kind of how you can manipulate these things to be different, to be fit into the different tempos or whatever. And so while the tempo that it says on the loop title is the is the BPM or the tempo that they're recommending you set your DAW as, you can mix and match these by using the stretch functionality. For instance, what we can do here is go back to our match here, and then if we wanted to, we could mix and match the bass part. So for instance, we're muting the bass part of our original 161 BPM track, and we're gonna have the 116 BPM bass track in C play with our original drum track. Or we can do the opposite. We can have the original bass track and this new drum track be playing with each other. Okay. And we can even, to some degree, have them be different sections. So actually with the bass, we're going to probably have to keep it all, well, all right, instead of being confusing with this, we'll just keep everything on its own track here. And for the first half of the drums, so we'll call this drum loop 1. We'll call this drum loop 2. We'll call this bass 1 and bass 2. 2, not 3. And then we're going to put a sound shifter on this C bass, on the bass in the key of C. And we are going to drop it half a semitone so that this bass in C is now in the key of B. And so they should be in the same key as each other. And then we can have an A section and a B section, and they're both in the same tempo and the same key. And we can just kind of play it and see what happens here. Okay. We can even, if we want, mute one of the basses and have this bass be the whole, play through the whole thing. Okay, and so we start getting the idea here of what you can kind of start doing with these loops. Now, if you stay within a specific pack, everything is going to kind of more or less be designed to a degree to go with the rest of this stuff here. So if we do chug guitar in C and bring that in, this is going to be designed to go with this original not original, but our 116 BPM sort of loop here, and we can add this chug guitar in, and we'll see what that sounds like. I don't know if you even heard that. Just kind of doing like some muted string hits there. Maybe try this guitar layer here, see what happens. Now this is, I think, designed to go with these drums here, or this section here, so. So you can play with this kind of stuff, right? And you can also add in different loops or samples or whatever. Like, I don't know what this synth lead here is, but it seems to be, again, in the same pattern as this here. And that changes keys from B to C. But if we were to, say, do a sound shifter and then this, and then we have an A section and a B section, and we can keep kind of going through. Now, you, like I said, all of the loops in this sample pack are going to be kind of designed to go with each other, but you can actually, if you so desired, use samples from different packs. So, and just kind of see what happens. So, like, maybe we can look at this 90s gangsta rap here, and we have a bass loop here at 90 BPM. And so maybe we can see what this bass loop is doing. We can drag it out so that it is appropriate, and it is in the key of D minor. So let's mute everything else except for this bass and these drums here. And then we can loop that as well. Then we can maybe try putting this crunchy ghost E minor thing in here. And because this is in a different key, we are going to want to use a sound shifter here. If this is the key of D minor and this is the key of an E minor, we are going to want to drop this a full semitone so that these two will sound good together. And then we can put in this piano thing here as well. But you can see how we're kind of fitting all this into the same tempo by making sure that we are converting the BPM to match up correctly with everything, and this is already in D minor, so this should work fine with our bass and all the other instrumentation we have going on. Okay. Now, sometimes these loops are going to work really well with each other. Sometimes they might not. They may be designed not to, or some of these might be designed to work with certain things as opposed to others. So, there's a lot of trial and error kind of involved in this process, but all the music is kind of done for you. All you're doing is just picking and choosing what pieces you want to put with what, right? Okay, and then we can even look at maybe some lo-fi beats here. And they say they have a lead guitar here for 8 bars at 8 BPM. And it is in the key of C minor, and we want this to be in the key of D minor. So we're going to get our sound shifter here, and we're going to pitch this up 2 semitones so that it's going from C minor to D minor. And we'll play this and just kind of see what what happens. And maybe it's not working so well with our piano here, but maybe it'll work better without the piano. And we can play with it some. So like, to me, that still feels maybe a little off. So if we were to do something like this, it may sound better, it may sound worse, who knows? Okay. And so you're kind of going through and you're just picking out different loops that you can put together in ways that, you know, make sense for you. So we're going to delete all of this for right now and kind of start from scratch again. Maybe try some chill step here. And looks like all of this chill step is designed to be at 140 BPM. Well, some of this is 120. But we'll go ahead and change our BPM to 140. And we have an F minor synth 4-bar loop. And we can play this. Okay, and all of these are in F minor, all of these loops. And so if we were to bring in another one here, looks like they're designed to go with each other for the most part here. So we can even put in this next one here and see what happens when we kind of stack some of this stuff. Now, some of this is going to sound really great with each other. Some of it maybe not so much. And this is the kind of the fun thing with loops, is you can play around, experiment, have some fun with it. And we can look into our arrangement stuff here as well. So, you know, if we were to copy paste this out a little bit, maybe we don't have all of this come in right away. So, like I said, not all of it's always going to work with each other perfectly, and that's okay. You can always kind of experiment. We can use as much or as little from these packs as we want. We can maybe bring in some percussion here. Or a drum beat here. And just copy and paste this drum beat out. And maybe turn down this percussion some. And we'll look for a bass that... Is there a bass that has F minor in it? No. Okay. So in order to get any of these bass parts to work well with our synth part, we are going to need to transpose them, and we can do that again by just going to a pitch shifter. And this is a Waves pitch shifter. There are a lot of these types of things out there. You don't have to use this specific one, but you can go out there and do some research on it if you want. But if we're in G minor and we want to get it down to F minor, we are going to need to drop it by 2 semitones or a full step. And now this bass should sound all right with our synth line. Okay. And I'm not really digging this percussion, to be honest with you. But if you like it, you can use it. But let's see what happens now. Okay. And so you can start combining things. And again, like I said, you can look at different loop libraries. You can look at different, things to combine if you want. You can find things that you might think work well with each other or don't work well with each other, or however you want to do it. But you want to pay attention to the BPM, and you want to pay attention when applicable to the key that it says it's in. You also want to pay attention to whether it's in a major or a minor key. If you put a major and a minor key together, there's a real chance they are not going to work real well together. Unless you know that they are corresponding, whether they're relative minors or parallel minors. A relative minor, and if you look at my chord theory video, I may have gone over this. I can't remember quite sure. But relative minor essentially just means that you are taking the... what's a good way to say this? So... well, let's just use the key of C, for instance, okay? If you use the key of C major, the notes in it, the key of C major are C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and then back to C, with no sharps or flats. The relative minor of C is A minor, which is the sixth, okay? Or the sixth thing in the C. But anyways, A minor is going to use all of the same notes as the key of C with no sharps or flats. And that is a relative minor because they are related to each other. They are related because they use the same notes. A parallel minor would be taking the key of C major, and then it's parallel key would be C minor. And C minor and C major do not use all the same notes. And so if you were to choose the key of C major and then also put things in the key of C major, but also put C minor chords and notes in the key of C, it may not sound or may not work really well with each other. So you want to just be careful that if you are using major and minor keys with each other, that they are relative minors. And you can do that by just making sure that it's the sixth interval. For instance, in the key of B, the relative minor, I believe it would be the G sharp then, right? Which means that G sharp minor and B are going to use all the same notes and all the same chords. They're just going to be in different orders. And I might do a video on this in the future because I'm probably just confusing you more than anything right now. But we can maybe look up, I guess I can just show you this real quick, but if we look up circle of fifths here, and it's just a quick Google search on this, it'll give you the major key on the outside of this ring, and it's giving you the relative minor on the inside. So the relative minor to C is A, as we discussed. The relative minor of B is G sharp, as we discussed, and so on and so forth. So like B flat, major, and G minor are basically the same key, sort of. There are some subtle differences, but you cannot necessarily use them interchangeably. But by and large, they're using all the same notes and the same chords, and so it'll. There's a chance that it could work out pretty well if you for instance, if you were in the key of D major, you could maybe use some loops that also were in the key of B minor and have them work okay with each other. All right. And like I said, you can figure this out, what your relative minor is for your major chord by looking at your sixth right here, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever your 6 is going to be the relative minor to your 1. All right. So maybe hopefully that helps when you're going and looking at loops, but you're probably better off by and large just by if it's a major key, stick to other major keys and then use our transposing trick here in order to get them to work together. Otherwise, you might run into some issues. So like right now, this is in the key of G minor. This, all this stuff is in the key of G minor. Our bass is in the key of, or our synth rather is in the key of F minor. So we want to look, if we're looking through stuff, we want to make sure that we're looking for another minor key to really make sure that this is going to sound all right together, right? So for instance, we have this pad loop here in G sharp minor. And it's 85 BPM. So if we were to shorten it up here a little bit, and this is a G sharp minor, and we want it to put it, we want to put it in the key of F minor. So we're going to do 3 semitones. Now, that's not to guarantee that this is going to work. They may be using different chord progressions or different things that may not necessarily work, but this is kind of trial and error, so you can see what happens. Yeah, so that's not working super great with this particular loop, but you can always try and experiment and find these kinds of things and have some fun with them. The other thing that we're going to want to look at today are samples. And samples are essentially just audio versions of MIDI in a kind of in a certain sense. Generally speaking, they're going to be called one-shots. If we look in here, or they may not be. So like we have this kick right here, right? And if we were to drag this in, it is just one instance of a kick. It is not a loop. It's just one instance of a kick. And if we were to play this kick, okay, and we can also find a snare somewhere right here. Okay. And this is one instance again of a snare. And just like in MIDI, we can move these to their the spots that we want them to be. So like, for instance, snare, generally speaking, is going to sound really good on the 2 and the 4 of a bar. Well, it doesn't sound like, oh, that's a scratch, not a snare. Pulled the wrong thing. My bad. This is what we're looking for. Let me just delete this right now. And we'll take the snare and put it on the 2 and the 4. And this is kind of a way of building our own loops. And it's the same principle as MIDI, except you're using audio instead of MIDI notes. Audio can be a little trickier to work with sometimes, but it's similar in regards to MIDI. Okay. And then we can go ahead and find like a hi-hat here, which I think I saw right here. And we can decide whether we want this to be 8th notes, 16th notes, etc. So right now, this is quarter notes. And we can just copy paste all of this out. And you want to be careful. Loops can sometimes be a little weird, so you may need to use fades and different things to create or to prevent like pops or clicks or things like that that are unwanted. Like the tail end of this kick, for instance, I think might be popping a bit. And yeah, so just be aware you may need to use some fades in order to prevent clicks and pops and things like that. Pretty simple to do. And then we can convert this into clips here. And if we were to do that, all of a sudden, we have made a 2-bar loop. Okay, and then we can take this 2-bar loop, and we can, you know, maybe add this onto it. Which is another one-shot or one-time use kind of thing. Does this even have any? Not feeling that. I'm not trying to look for another loop. So here we go. Here's a loop. We got a guitar in E minor in the key, or a key of E minor at 120 BPM, and we're just going to want to go ahead and make sure that we are locked in tempo wise. Okay. And then we can actually, if we want, and there are ways to do this with loops as well. But if we go ahead and bring up a synth, we can actually combine synths with our audio loops as well. So maybe we like everything, but we can't find a good bass loop to go along with it. So we can bring our bass in, or pick a bass sound out here. Maybe something like that. And we know that we're in the key of E minor. And so E is probably a good place to start. And the relative minor of, or the relative major of E minor is G. So G major notes and chords will work in the key of E minor. So if you don't want to think of those terms of minor keys, which we haven't really covered much in this series, you can use the major key to figure out what notes will work along with this kind of thing. Kind of use this same rhythm kind of thing here. And then we can just, once again, have this all loop again. Now, this may not be perfect, but it's just kind of, some examples here of how you can start putting some of this stuff together. Okay. And then there are times where, and sometimes this will be part of the soft synth you're using, and sometimes you can use loop libraries, but sometimes they will have just need to find one that does. Here we go, MIDI. So we can take, so these are MIDI loops. So you get to, they're pre-programmed Things like minor keys. Let's see if we can find something in E minor, right? And then we can take whatever synthesizer we want. And we're looking for, well, none of this is working, so maybe they have something in G. There we go. And because it's MIDI, it's automatically in the proper BPM. And then we can choose a sound for it. And so we can see what this is doing, but let's maybe try with like something key like maybe to begin with. And this last one's not working so great. And sometimes it'll be a little bit more involved than this. And as a matter of fact, what we can actually do is, let's come back here. It's all saying basic minor. Here we go. Maybe something like this. So this would be a little bit more intricate, I imagine. And let's just bring that in here. And we can move this. So this is in the key of G. It's starting on a G major, but if we were to move this, oh wait, we want this to be a C major. So if we were to push this up half a step, there's a potential. Ooh. Yeah, so this is not designed for this style at all. So, but you can use MIDI. Sometimes software or sample packs will have MIDI loops that you can bring in. And they won't always work, but you can use them to sort of enhance what's going on here. So maybe with this, what we can do instead is just build our own loop here, again, using samples. And this is a major 7, so a C major 7. We're adding the 7th, which is a B, the major 7. And I'm doing this mostly just for the idea that we have not really covered sevenths much. So this is a minor seventh, a D major minor seven, dominant seven, I guess is what that would be technically. Oop. And then we have an E minor. The minor seven. So I'm doing a lot of guesswork on this, but I mean that's kind of what you're doing anyways with with music is, you know, guessing, make sure. But yeah, so I think that this is the right chord progression that's matching along with kind of what the guitar is doing and stuff like that. And now we've created a we've created our own drum loop here. We've added in a guitar loop as well. And then we've put in our own MIDI bass and a keyboard part here using some fun sevenths. And again, it's a C major 7, a D 7 or a dominant 7, an E minor 7, and then a G major 7. And I guess if we were looking at our theory here, our major 7 is a 1-3-5-7. We're in the key of G or E minor, but in this case, it's the key of G. And so this is not set up for the key of G, obviously, but these are the formulas we're using. A minor 7th is a 1, a flat, 3, a 5, and a 7, and the dominant 7 is a 1-3-5, flat 7. And I guess with, no, so. And we'll just move this as a little walk. Okay. And then we have created, a song. Now we can take this loop and we can, let's see, I'll call this just kick. You can relabel things just to make it a little easier. Call that snare, hi-hat. We'll call this guitar, bass keys. Okay. And now we have kind of a little, we've created a loop, and you can either use loops pre-made or you can create your own using samples, MIDI, what have you. We've kind of gone over both here so that you get an idea. And then we can start, messing with this arrangement a little bit. So, maybe we start off the song with just this guitar and drums. And maybe we find a different thing here. I'm not sure about these sevens. At least for the vibe that, I'm kind of feeling here. I'm not sure that these sevens are really doing a whole lot to add to the sort of like poppy nature of what we got going on here. Maybe something like that, a little better. I don't know. You can fool around with this, play around with this. There are endless possibilities, as always, and that's kind of the fun and beauty of music, is exploring and experimenting and trying to figure out what works, and bring it more into something that you think is appropriate. So, what we may want to do, let's go back to some of these here. See if we can't find I don't even know. It may be easier just to at this point, honestly, it might just be easier to go with something like this. But I think we need kind of a paddy sort of sound, I don't know, or keyboardy sound. I don't know how to explain it, but it just feels like it needs something to help it out a little bit. And so I don't know. Let's see about just putting down some notes here. And again, I don't even know if this is appropriate, but just kind of something to fill in the gap a little bit here. Maybe adding a little bit of delay or some fun stuff to this to just kind of give it a bit more movement might be good. 140. And then push it in the background a bit more with some verb. Okay. And so, yeah, you can see how you can start building this out using loops. And you can, like I said, build your own. You can use the pre-made ones. There are lots of places to find these types of loops. A quick Google search will give you, thousands of sites that you can look at, and you can find both free and like paid subscription-based or whatever libraries that will give you access to this kind of stuff. And even within your own synthesizers, like for instance, if you're looking for drum loops, a lot of them tend to be actually built into the synthesizer or the soft synth that you're using, or the instrument, whatever. So like this is a Stephen Slate drums or whatever. And if we come down here to grooves, well, first of all, let's pick a drum kit. So, okay. And then you can start picking out which thing. So we picked a kick, I guess, here. Yeah, I don't even know. I have not used this in a very, very long time, so I'm not exactly sure precisely how this works, but okay. I see what's going on here. All right, so let's see. Let's check out a verse. So this is a verse hi-hat pattern. And right. And so you can use this grooves thing here, and looks like there's also some ways to play with it and do some various things, I guess, with this that will change up what's going on. And so I have not looked into this very much. I don't tend to use these pre-made grooves very often. I haven't in years. And this interface is different than what I use. But you can look up tutorials and stuff if you want to look more into this and figure out how you can use these pre-made MIDI loops as well to use as your, grooves. So like if we were to come in here, you can kind of see what's going on here with the kick, the snare, the hi-hat. And as you can see, snare on 2 and 4, kick on 1. Very simple. And you can take this and you can even mess with this as well. So like if you wanted to say, add some stuff in. You can play with this as well. So there are lots of different ways to find and use these grooves, or make them yourself, however you want to do it. But like this is the process. And again, you're just kind of putting this framework together. So how to produce a song. In this case, we, took a loop or made our own or whatever, I can't remember. We start laying down the foundation, just getting the general vibe going, and then we can kind of start to fill out our template, which, is figuring out, our verses, our choruses, our bridge, or however we want to structure the song. and start the arrangement process and all that kind of stuff. And you can have some fun with that. Now we're gonna not get too deep into this because the main goal today was not really to put together a full template or anything like that, but just kind of show you how you can start using loops and incorporate them into your productions. And like I said, you can find the loops all over the place, whether there's dedicated websites that are designed to give you your loops, your one-shots, your what have you, your samples that you can use to put into your music. And you can look into that and research that with some simple Google searches. You can create your own loops using MIDI instruments or drum libraries or things like that. And some of the soft synths that you're using, these libraries, sound libraries, will come with their own loops and pre-made as well in a lot of cases. And so you can utilize those as well. And so there's lots of places to get these loops. You just the fundamental things you want to keep in mind is when you're working with audio is you want to make sure that the tempo and the key that you're in are going to be good with each other or whatever. Like you want to make sure that all the stuff is in the right key and that it's all in the proper tempo. Otherwise, your loops can start sounding kind of messy if you're not careful. So that's something to keep in mind. And there's ways that you can do that depending on what DAW you're in. You may have different ways of going about stretching things out or transposing them to the proper keys and things like that. Also, the closer, generally speaking, but the closer you keep your loops close to the tempo and the key that they were designed to be in, generally speaking, the better the results, or the more natural the results. That's not to say that you can't have some fun. Let's see. I think actually, excuse me. Oh, sorry about that. Yeah. Okay. So like, here are some like vocal things that you can have that exist, and here's one in the key of G. We'll turn it down. So these are vocal chops that I got, and so you can use these as well.
Always, you're always on my mind, baby.
Okay. So that one just happens to be in the proper key. But if we were to find something, for instance, that we liked the melody of, and you can chop these up even more, and we might get into that in the future as well. But let's find something that's in a key that's pretty far away from G. So this is in D flat, right? And there's no tempo associated with it, so you can kind of figure that out at some point. It's like kind of moving where you want to move it to. But if we use a pitch shifter to get this to fit into the key of G, right now it's in D flat. Yeah, D flat. So E, F, F sharp, G. Well, that's not quite right. Did we go up too much? That doesn't sound right either. D flat. E, F, F sharp, G. In theory, this should be correct. Yeah. Fascinating. I don't know why that's not working or sounds so off, but maybe we can find something else instead. Okay, well, the note D happens to be in the same key as G, so...
I wanna be your everything.
Okay, so let's see if we can move this. But I guess the point of showing you this is that you sometimes you want a more unnatural sounding thing, and so using these pitch shifters to do that can help. So let's see. We're in B flat. That should be C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G. So theoretically, or we can make it lower. So B flat at 0, A flat, G.
I wanna be your everything. I wanna be your everything.
So yeah, you can change the pitch of things in order to get them to be even more odd sounding, if you wanted. So you can do these kind of things to manipulate and change the sounds. And you can combine loops. Yeah. So you can play with this kind of stuff. You can even do chop yourself. So you can go through and at whatever sort of thing you want to do, and you can do this kind of thing, and it's going to make it sound a little odd, but maybe in a pleasant way. And you can even start replacing things and just kind of get some fun. And then same thing here. We can take maybe a few of these and insert them in random or specific spots. And then you can throw some fun effects on there, maybe some some delay or various things. Maybe maybe some distortion for some fun. Okay, so you can have a lot of fun with loops. You can chop them up. You can have some be even like reverse them to get some fun effect. And you can even do the same thing, for instance, if you wanted to, with your kicks or your snares or what have you. You can maybe take one every now and then and just have it be reversed. And yeah, you can have some fun with it, right? So you can move things around. You can play with audio. You can mess with various things in order to get some fun little sounds, chops, things like that. You can cut them up and slice them in different ways and combine them back together in kind of some Frankenstein ways in order to create some cool effects or some cool whatever. And sometimes you want them to be more odd than so like maybe even like for this kind of stuff we can take a like an auto-tune kind of thing here, auto-tune it, but then we can also do E minor. Or you can have it be lower. Or you can combine the two of them together. So you have that one that's up an octave and one that's not. All right. So yeah, there's a lot of different things that you can do to have some fun with this kind of thing. Mess around with it, play with it, do some experimentation. But this is loops. This is how you use loops. You just kind of, you can either build your own or use pre-made ones, combine them, mess with them, cut them up, do different things, put them, cut them up and put them back together again in different ways, slice and dice. You can add in your own samples or own MIDI stuff as well in order to get them to kind of fit exactly what it is that you're trying to do. There's lots of different ways to do this. I think that should do it for today. Next week, we will get into more of the detail kind of stuff when it comes to productions. And you kind of saw a little bit of that here where we were doing a little slicing and dicing, just some little things that will make your song kind of a little bit more interesting, maybe, or throw some twists in there that people aren't expecting, but in a, a pleasing way, at least to yourself. Doing like these reverse kind of things, little subtle details like that. That's kind of sort of what filling in the details is. And so you can kind of start taking some of these little things and, pushing them throughout the production just to make things a little bit more lively, a little more interesting. But we're going to cover more of the details and how you can kind of go about doing this stuff starting next week, where I'm probably going to go ahead and put together a basic framework or basic template that we can, take and then mess with and start doing these little things to play around and really bring out the details and make his song kind of more interesting as we go, right? But anyways, I hope that for today you've learned a little bit more about loops and how you can use them in your own productions, how you can go ahead and use both samples and loops to make the process a little easier, understanding the keys and the tempos and how they work and how they can kind of relate with each other, and how you can go about making them fit better together in different contexts, and that you can use different loops from different libraries to, combine and come up with some fresh results. And, you can take them even further than that. You can create your own. There's lots of different ways you can go about building music, but loops is definitely one way that you can do it, and you can make them as unique or as simplified as you want. Yeah. So anyways, with that, I hope you guys have yourselves a wonderful day, a wonderful week, and I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.